Good morning, students. I am back with another group of antimicrobial agents, that is quinolones. Quinolones is antimicrobial agent, not antibiotic. Can anybody tell why it is antimicrobial agents but not antibiotic? Yes, anybody? Because quinolones are synthesized, not we don't get it from the antimicrobial agents. So quinolones, we'll be discussing today quinolones. So coming to the specific learning objectives. So today we'll be discussing what is quinolones, its history, sources, then classification and organisms sensitive to quinolones, its mechanism of action, resistance, pharmacokinetics, uses, adverse effects, and drug interaction of the quinolones. So what is quinolones? Quinolones are the family of synthetic broad spectrum antimicrobial agents, and it is a bactericidal. It has the bactericidal activity. Coming to the history, in 1962, nalidixic acid was discovered by George Lesher during synthesis of chloroquine and was named as quinolone. So nalidixic acid was the first member of the quinolone group. This quinolone groups of antimicrobial agents, they have a basic structure of carboxyl group at position 3 and the ketone group at the position 4. When fluorine is added at the position 6, then it converts into a fluoroquinolones. That is, fluoroquinolones were derived by adding fluorine atom in the nalidixic acid. So nalidixic acid has carboxyl group at the position 3 and the ketone group at the position 4. Now fluorination at the position 6, this is the fluorination at the position 6, and the piperazine substitute at the position 7 increases its gram-negative activity or the activity against the gram-negative organisms with increased potency, expanded spectrum, slow development of resistance, better tissue penetrability with good tolerability. So the basic structure of the quinolones, they have the carboxyl group as well as the at the position 4 and the ketone group at the position 4 and the carboxyl group at the position 3 and the fluorine at the position 6. Now earlier quinolones were useful only for the treatment of urinary tract infection. It was only used for urinary tract infection, but its fluorinated derivatives, that is fluoroquinolones, achieved bactericidal level in the blood and the tissues, so they have been improved bactericidal spectrum. So not only UTI, in fluorinated derivatives, that is the fluoroquinolones, are used in other infection too. The nalidixic acid are the oldest and the least often used drug because of minimal serum level are achieved, and use of these drugs restricted to the treatment of uncomplicated urinary tract infection. Because this nalidixic acid, they used to achieve only minimal serum level, but in the urine, its concentration is good. They are more susceptible to development of bacterial resistance. That is the drawback of nalidixic acid. These agents are not recommended for use in patients with poor renal function because of significantly decreased urine concentration. To have an effect of a drug, antimicrobial agents or antibiotic in the urine, in the urinary tract infection, its concentration should be sufficient enough in the urine. But when patients with compromised renal function, they doesn't get much or the required concentration in the urine, so it cannot be used. It will not achieve the minimum effective concentration in the urine. So these agents are not recommended for use in patients with poor renal function because of significantly decreased urine concentration. Coming to the classification and the spectrum of activity of the fluoroquinolones, there are 4 generations, first, second, third and fourth. The first generation are mainly effective against gram-negative organisms. Then second generation has improved spectrum with gram-positive as well as has activity against some atypical organisms. And the third generations, they have better gram-positive coverage along with better atypical activity against the atypical organisms. It has some activity against the anaerobic organisms too. Now coming to the fourth generation, besides this gram-negative coverage, gram-positive coverage and coverage against the atypical organisms, they have very good coverage against the anaerobic organisms. Now, what are the members of different generations of the fluoroquinolones? The first generations drugs are norfloxacillin, ciprofloxacillin, ofloxacillin, lefloxacillin, and lomifloxacillin. And they mainly covered against the gram-negative organisms like your Salmonella, Shigella, Proteus, Haemophilus influenzae, Bacillus anthracis, Mycobacterium tuberculosis, Chlamydia, but it doesn't have any activity against the methicillin-resistant Staphylococcal aureus. Now coming to the second generation, example of second generations are your levofloxacin and prulifloxacillin. They also have coverage against the gram-negative organisms, but have better activity against the gram-positive organisms like gram-positive cocci, Mycoplasma, Legionella, and Chlamydia. Also against these organisms, also this second generation has the coverage. Now third generations drugs are sparfloxacillin, moxifloxacin, gemifloxacin. They have both gram-negative as well as the gram-positive streptococci, Mycobacterium tuberculosis, and Staphylococcal aureus coverage. Against these organisms, they had a very good coverage, and also they have activity against the Enterococcus and atypical coverage also they have. They have activity against the anaerobic organisms also. Now coming to the fourth generations are trevofloxacin, moxifloxacin, finafloxacin. They have coverage is same as third generation but with broad anaerobic coverage. Now in short, the susceptible organisms are the which are susceptible to the fluoroquinolones are E. coli, Salmonella typhi, Shigella, Vibrio cholerae, Enterobacterium, Klebsiella, Proteus, Gonococci, Haemophilus influenzae, and Campylobacter jejuni. Why it is important? Because when you know these fluoroquinolones have activity against these organisms, so any infections which you suspect that probably is due to these organisms, then you have a choice or you have the choice to prescribe fluoroquinolones. So that's why it is very important to know the antimicrobial agents, they are effective against which microorganisms. Now coming to the few properties of fluoroquinolones. As I told earlier, they have bactericidal activity with high potency. Now minimum bactericidal concentration are close to minimum inhibitory concentration. So when the bactericidal concentration and minimum bactericidal concentration and the minimum inhibitory concentrations are very close. They usually are bacteriostatic bacteriostatic antimicrobial agents. They have relatively long post-antibiotic effects on the Enterobacteriaceae, Pseudomonas, and Staphylococcus. Low frequency of mutational resistance. That is the one advantage. The chance of developing resistance is less. Low propensity to select plasmid type of resistant mutant. They are less effective in acidic pH. So when you prescribe fluoroquinolones, you should not make the urine acidic. So the patient should not take vitamin C. So protective intestinal streptococci and anaerobics are spared. Means they do not disturb the normal anaerobic bacterial flora. Especially when you prescribe the broad spectrum antimicrobial agents, they also will kill the normal bacterial flora. But advantage with fluoroquinolone is that they do not disturb the normal anaerobic bacterial flora. So coming to the mechanism of action, the target is the bactericidal DNA guidase enzyme or topoisomerase 4 enzyme. Now, in case of gram-positive bacteria like Staphylococcus aureus, these antimicrobial agents, their target is topoisomerase 4. Now, what is the function of the topoisomerase 4? During the bacterial growth, then actually what happens, there is these enzymes separates the interlinked daughter DNA molecules. So the the DNA, when there is growth of the microorganisms, so during multiplications, it separates the DNA molecules. That is the product of the DNA replications. Now, after the DNA replications, the DNA are separated by the enzyme topoisomerase. Now, if you give fluoroquinolones, especially in case of gram-positive bacteria, due to inhibitions of the topoisomerase 4 enzyme, now DNA cannot be separated. So it disturbs this group of antimicrobial agents disturbs the bacterial multiplication. Now, in case of gram-negative bacteria like E. coli, the target is DNA guidase enzyme. Now, DNA guidase enzyme has two isoforms, two subunits, A subunits and the B subunits. So, what is the function of the DNA guidase enzyme? Actually, when the two DNA are separated, from one end it is separated, so distal ends there is a overwhelming. Now, so to avoid this overwhelming, what happens? The DNA guidase enzyme, they cut the daughter DNA and introduce a negative supercoil. So during the separation, beyond the end of the separation, there is a distal end, there is a positive supercoiling, so that there is more overwhelming of the DNA, separated DNAs. Replicated DNA. So DNA guidase enzyme, they cut and introduce the negative supercoil, and thereby the separation of the two replicated DNA is possible. Now the A subunit actually they cut, and B subunit they introduce the negative supercoil. Again A subunit they reseal it. So you can see here this diagram, when these two DNA are separated, replicated. Now what happens? This separation is done by topoisomerase enzyme. Now what happens in case of gram-positive organism? But in case of gram-negative organism, what happens? When the separation occurs, the distal ends there is overwhelming. So to avoid this overwhelming, what happens? Or there is more supercoiling. So the DNA guidase enzyme A subunit they cut it. Once cut it and introduce the negative supercoil, and again by the introduction of the negative supercoiling is by the B subunit of the DNA guidase enzyme, and again after introduction of the negative supercoiling, again the A subunit of the DNA garage enzyme, they reseal it. Then thereby the two DNA which is replicated can be separated. So what I have discussed here, the same thing has been demonstrated in this slide. The DNA replication or transcription, the double helical strands are separated. Now separation of the strands result in overwinding or the excessive positive supercoiling of the DNA in front of the point of separation. So at the point of separation, when there is a point of separation distal to it, there is a excessive overwinding or the excessive positive supercoiling. To avoid this or to combat this mechanical obstacle, the DNA garage enzyme causes continuous introduction of negative supercoil into the DNA. Now both strands of DNA, they cut to permit the passage of segment of the DNA through the break, and means in other words they introduce the negative supercoil, the break is then again resealed and the separation is very easy. Now I don't know whether you have any experience of separating the, say suppose one rope, it is double plied or four plied. So if you want to separate those plies, what happens? The area where you want to, the end where you want to separate it, distal ends, what happens? There is a overwinding or more coiling. The same thing happens here also in the DNA. So to avoid that, somebody has to, other end, somebody has to hold it, that rope, and he has to rotate it in opposite direction so that separation becomes easy. The same thing happens here. The enzyme, they cut it and they introduce the negative supercoiling. You can try at home with your with the rope also. So things will be very clear. Now fluoroquinolones are bactericidal agents. They block bacterial DNA synthesis by inhibiting bacterial DNA gyrase and topoisomerase 4. Now, inhibition of the DNA gyrase prevents the relaxation of positively supercoiled DNA that is required for normal transcription and replication. Now, if you are inhibiting this enzyme, so naturally it cannot be separated, the supercoiled, so replication, transcription and replication is not possible. New protein synthesis will not be there, so bacterial multiplication will not be possible. The inhibition of the topoisomerase 4 interfere with the separation of replicated chromosomal DNA into the respective daughter cells during the cell division. So cell division is inhibited. So bacterial growth also, or bacterial multiplication also inhibited. They can enter the cells, I mean the fluoroquinolones, they can enter the cells easily by pore channels and are used to treat the intracellular pathogens like your Legionella, then Pneumophilia and the Mycoplasma. Sometimes examiner may ask, can you give me example of a antimicrobial agents which are effective intracellular? Your answer will be fluoroquinolones. So same thing what I have discussed here. So the one DNA garage enzyme, they cut, you can see they cut it and they again introduce this area from, it was in the back. So after cutting, they made it in front. That means the overwinding is avoided, so it can be easily separated. So in the schematic diagram of mechanism of action, fluoroquinolones, they bind the A subunit of DNA garage enzyme, that is the topoisomerase 2 enzyme, then thereby prevents the binding of substrate to the active site of DNA garage, absence of formation of enzyme substrate complex, blockade of unwinding of double-stranded DNA into the single-stranded structure, prevention of synthesis of messenger RNA, thereby transcription and will be translation will be inhibited, inhibition of the bacterial protein synthesis, and thereby there is a antibacterial activity. So this is the mechanism action of the in detail mechanism action of the fluoroquinolones. But in one word, the fluoroquinolones either they inhibit the DNA garage enzyme or topoisomerase 4 enzyme. Now, what is the mechanism of resistance? The antimicrobial agents, they develop resistance against the fluoroquinolones. The resistance to quinolones may develop during the therapy via mutation in the bacterial chromosomal genes encoding the DNA guidage and the topoisomerase enzyme. So due to the mutation, the bacterial chromosomal genes is changed, so thereby there is a change in the DNA guidage and the topoisomerase enzyme, and due to this change, quinolone binding will not be possible. Thereby, they inhibit, they cannot inhibit, the fluoroquinolones cannot inhibit the either the DNA guidage enzyme or the topoisomerase enzyme, because there is a change in the quinolone binding region of these enzymes. This is the one mechanism. There may be another mechanism, decrease outer membrane penetrability. So by change in the porine protein, thereby the fluoroquinolones cannot enter inside the organisms. Now if the fluoroquinolones can enter, there may be another mechanism of development of resistance. The microorganisms are so smart, they can efflux out the antimicrobial agents from inside the cell. So efflux pump activation, transport of drug out of the bacteria, thereby the concentration of the fluoroquinolone inside the microorganisms will be less, thereby the microorganism develop resistance against the fluoroquinolones. You can see here the mutation of the bacterial genes, so thereby there is a change in the binding site of the DNA guidase enzyme or the topoisomerase 4. So your drug cannot act, or the drug cannot enter inside the microorganisms, or even if it enters also, there is again efflux out. So the P glycoprotein expression, there is efflux out of the drug, so there is a development of resistance. So after mechanism action of the mechanism actions of the development of resistance, let us come to the pharmacokinetics. It is well absorbed orally with bioavailability 80 to 95%, that is almost equal to IV. IV bioavailability is how much? 100%. But here you can see at least 95%. So half-life is 3 to 10 hours. Oral absorption is impaired by bivalent cation like. So why it is important? So antacid, it contains aluminum and magnesium. Milk, it contains calcium, or even iron tablets, iron preparations, they contain iron. So these antacids or milk or the iron preparations can inhibit the absorption of your fluoroquinolones. So this is important to know. We should not prescribe fluoroquinolones with milk or with the antacids. Most of fluoroquinolones eliminated by the renal mechanism. So adjustment of dose is required in patients with renal compromise function. Like when the creatinine clearance is less than 50, you have to adjust the dose. But the maximum of the fluoroquinolones. But there are some fluoroquinolones, they are actually metabolized in liver. There it is not required. The fluoroquinolones like your levofloxacin and moxifloxacin, they are actually metabolized in the liver. Now, fluoroquinolones doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier except your levofloxacin. So, which of the fluoroquinolones can cross the blood-brain barrier? There may be a multiple choice question. So, which fluoroquinolones dose need not to be reduced or adjusted in renal failure patients? So, there may be some options. So, your correct options will be say moxifloxacin or levofloxacin. Coming to the distribution, now some of the tissues, it is concentrated. That means concentration of fluoroquinolone is more than the serum, like your prostatic tissue, stool, bile, lung, kidneys, neutrophil, macrophages. So intracellular concentration also is very good. Why it is important to know? A patient of prostatitis has come, patient bacterial dysentery has come, infection in the hepatobiliary system, or patient of pneumonia, or a patient of pyelonephritis or the urinary tract infection has come. So your choice may be fluoroquinolones unless it is contraindicated. So it is also again very important which antimicrobial agents has very good distribution in which tissues. Now, little bit in detail of the pharmacokinetic properties of fluoroquinolones. You can see the half-life is almost around 6 to 7 hours. Except ciprofloxacin, it is little less, and the norfloxacin again is less. Others, they are around 6 or 7 or 8. Viability is very good. Some are as good as 95%. Moxifloxacin also, it doesn't enlisted here, but it also has very good oral bioavailability. Now, oral dose, it is around 400 to 500, and primary route of excretion is kidney. Why it is important to know? If you know the drug, which is the route of drug excretion, so naturally, in a patient who is suffering from, say, renal function, compromised renal function, or hepatic compromised hepatic function, so accordingly, you can choose the antimicrobial agents. Now, moxifloxacin excretion, you can see it is a non-renal. So, in a renal compromised patient, you can give moxifloxacin. Its concentration through the kidney is very less. So, another important thing to know, as its concentration or excretion through kidney is very less, so it is not a good choice for the treatment of urinary tract infection because the concentration in the urine will be very less. So never ever try to prescribe moxifloxacin in the especially in the lower urinary tract infection. That is the beauty of knowing the pharmacokinetics. Now coming to the different uses of fluoroquinolones, as I already told, their concentration is very good in the tissues, then prostate. Okay, so it can be used in prostatitis and the urinary tract infections, then even in the sexually transmitted diseases, GI infection, abdominal infections, and very good concentration in the lungs, so it can be used in respiratory tract infections. It is also used in bone and the joint and soft tissue infections. Now, fluoroquinolones, what is the clinical use? One very important use is your urinary tract infection. Even with multi-drug resistant organisms, fluoroquinolones is effective. Bacterial diarrhea caused by the Shigella, Salmonella, E. coli, then infections of soft tissues, bones and joints, intra-abdominal and respiratory tract infections, gonococcal infection, chlamydial urethritis and cervicitis, legionellosis, tuberculosis, atypical mycobacterial infections, meningeal infection where we prefer pefloxacin. Anthrax, it is not used alone. It is used along with either rifampicin, clindamycin, or clarithromycin. Any two with the fluoroquinolones. Any other two of this it is used for anaerobic infections, especially in case of cystic fibrosis and diabetic foot. Fluoroquinolones are used. Now, this is a little bit in detail in respiratory infections like pharyngitis and others. But in pharyngitis, in upper respiratory infection, it is not very appropriate drug. But necrotizing otitis media, ceprofloxacin, then Pseudomonas aeruginosa, for ceprofloxacin to cover the Pseudomonas aeruginosa, sinusitis, then hospital-acquired pneumonia, community-acquired pneumonia. So in respiratory infection, it can be used. Then urinary tract infection, cystitis, pyelonephritis, okay. Then prostatitis, then skin and soft tissue infections, anaerobic soft tissue infections. Sometimes it is you have to choose the better. If the better options is there, then we use that one. Then osteomyelitis, then bacterial diarrheal diseases, sexually transmitted diseases, and of course against the mycobacterial infections. So disseminated Mycobacterium avium complex drugs is used, ciprofloxacin, ofloxacin as a fourth agent if needed. Then fluoroquinolones, it is used against the Mycobacterium tuberculosis, or your ofloxacin, levofloxacin for the drug resistance or intolerance to first line drugs. So as the ofloxacin, levofloxacin, or the fluoroquinolones are effective against Mycobacterium tuberculosis, so when any patients with chest infection for prolonged chest infection comes, And if you suspect it may be due to tuberculosis, you should not prescribe fluoroquinolones unless you exclude the Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Otherwise, it may mask the infection. So, another very important use of fluoroquinolones is it is used for the treatment of enteric fever. So, drug of choice is your ciprofloxacin or ofloxacin. There are some other drugs which are also effective for the treatment of Staphylococcus, Salmonella typhi, that is your enteric fever. So other drugs, alternative drugs for the enteric fever or the typhoid fevers are your other fluoroquinolones like ofloxacillin, levofloxacillin, pafloxacin. Then another group is your ceftriaxone, chloramphenicol, which is a very cheap drug, otrimoxazole, ampicillin, amoxicillin, and azithromycin. Sometimes examiner may ask, what are the options, what are the antimicrobial agents which can be used for the treatment of Staphylococcus, Salmonella typhi, that is for against the enteric fever. A patient of enteric fever with in a pregnancy when comes, then drug of choice will be your ceftriaxone, not your fluoroquinolones. So coming to the adverse effects, generally safe antibiotic. The GIT adverse effects are nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, then antibiotic associated colitis also are the few adverse effects. Then confusion, insomnia, dizziness, anxiety, and seizure are the CNS adverse effects. Then seizure is due to displacement of GABA from its receptor. So a patient of epilepsy, you should not prescribe the fluoroquinolones. Now coming to the other adverse effects like serious adverse effects, it may prolong the QT, thereby there is chance of development of Torsades de Pointes, like your getifloxacillin and sparfloxacillin can prolong the QT. The fluoroquinolones may damage the growing cartilage, resulting in arthropathy. It is very important adverse effects, but that is reversible. So may be used in pseudomonas infections, but you have to think of or you have to judge the risk-benefit ratio. Other adverse effects like tendinitis, tendon rupture, rare, but it is very serious. It is due to effect in the collagen metabolism. It may cause phototoxicity, like especially the lomifloxacin, pafloxacillin, sparfloxacillin. So when you prescribe this drug, you should ask the patient to avoid sun exposure. It may cause leukopenia or eosinophilia, mild elevation in transaminases. It chelates the magnesium, calcium, iron, aluminum, and zinc. So thereby there may be absorption of these fluoroquinolones will be reduced. Even the absorption of iron also will be reduced. Hepatotoxicity is very important, especially by the provafloxacin and elaprevafloxacin. Hemolysis may seen in a patient with glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency. If you prescribe fluoroquinolones in patient who is having this enzyme deficiency, there is chance of hemolysis. QT prolongation may lead to arrhythmia. I have already told, that is your getifloxacin and sparfloxacin. Coming to the contraindication, children, it is not used, it is contraindicated, but it is not an absolute contraindication. Old age is another contraindication. As far as practicable, it's better to avoid. Pregnancy, lactation, epilepsy, and QT prolongation. Patient who is suffering from QT prolongation, you should not prescribe the quinolones. Now coming to the drug interactions, drugs increase the level of fluoroquinolones. Like if you prescribe theophylline or NSAIDs or corticosteroids, along with fluoroquinolones, the serum concentration of the fluoroquinolones will be increased, and that thereby there may be chance of toxicity with the fluoroquinolones. Now, drugs which decrease the absorption of fluoroquinolones are your antacid, sucralfate, and iron. So the serum concentration of fluoroquinolones will be reduced, thereby efficacy will be reduced if you prescribe fluoroquinolones with antacid, sucralfate, and the iron. Now, fluoroquinolones can increase the level of few drugs, like as the fluoroquinolones will inhibit the metabolism of antidepressant, imipramine, caffeine, theophylline, and warfarin. So what happens if you prescribe fluoroquinolones along with theophylline or the warfarin? There is chance of toxicity by the warfarin or the theophylline. Theophylline has a narrow therapeutic index, so chance of toxicity is very high. And if you prescribe fluoroquinolones with warfarin, there is chance of bleeding because the warfarin metabolism will be inhibited, so concentration will be increased. Now, some commonly used fluoroquinolones are your ciprofloxacin. They are mainly effective against gram-negative organisms like your Enterobacteriaceae, Haemophilus influenzae, then your Campylobacter, Pseudomonas, Neisseria gonorrhoeae. Intracellular, it is also effective against intracellular pathogens like Mycobacterium tuberculosis, Mycoplasma. Not effective against gram-positives and anaerobes. The clinical use of ciprofloxacin are urinary tract infection, osteomyelitis due to Pseudomonas, then gonorrhea, prostatitis, traveler's diarrhea, tuberculosis, cystic fibrosis, community acquired pneumonia, diabetic foot, then anthrax with ampicillin. In case of anthrax, you can use ciprofloxacin along with either ampicillin, rifampicin, imipenem, and clindamycin. Coming to the another group of drug, it is a second generation group of fluoroquinolones, that is levofloxacin. The spectrum is gram-negative and some of the gram-positive organisms. They are indicated for the treatment of chronic bronchitis, then community-acquired pneumonia, nosocomial pneumonia. Adverse effects are disturbance in the blood glucose level, especially in the diabetic patients. So if you prescribe fluoroquinolones in diabetic mellitus patients, it may cause hypoglycemia. There may be QT prolongations, then torsades de pointis, ventricular arrhythmia, nausea, GI upset, and interstitial nephritis. Theophylline and warfarin pharmacokinetics remain unchanged with levofloxacin. So, a patient who is getting theophylline or warfarin, if you have to choose fluoroquinolones, then your option is levofloxacin. Coming to the ofloxacin, intermediate between ciprofloxacin and norfloxacin, effective against Mycobacterium tuberculosis, Mycobacterium leprae, alternative to ciprofloxacin. Then it can be used for chronic bronchitis, non-specific urethritis, cervicitis, ENT infection. Atypical pneumonia caused by chlamydia, mycoplasma. In those cases also you can use ciprofloxacin. Now coming to the moxifloxacin, it is a long-acting 4th generation fluoroquinolones having high activity against streptococcal pneumonia. Other gram-positive bacteria including beta-lactam or macrolide resistance gram-positive organisms, and it is also effective against some anaerobic organisms. Most potent fluoroquinolones against the Mycobacterium tuberculosis and extensively used in multi-drug resistant tuberculosis. It acts by inhibiting bacterial topoisomerase in the gram-positive organisms. So it is effective against gram-positive organisms because its major target is topoisomerase 4. Primarily used for pneumonia, bronchitis, sinusitis, and otitis media. Urinary tract infection, if urinary concentration is low, hence not to be used in urinary tract infection. Which fluoroquinolones is better to avoid in urinary tract infection? Your choice will be moxifloxacin. Primarily metabolized in liver, should not be given in liver disease patients, No dose modification is needed in renal disease patients. I repeat, moxifloxacillin primarily metabolized in liver should not be given liver disease patients. No dose modification is needed in renal disease patients. It can prolong QT interval, may precipitate arrhythmia, phototoxicity. It is contraindicated in patients with seizure because it can reduce the seizure threshold. So better to avoid the fluoroquinolones as such in the epileptic patients because it can reduce the seizure threshold and can precipitate the seizure or the convulsion. Other individual drugs are norfloxacillin. It is less potent. It is reserved for UTI and GIT infections. And pefloxacillin concentration is good in CSF. So, in short, to sum up, the first generation fluoroquinolones are your norfloxacillin, ciprofloxacin, ofloxacin, plerfloxacin, lomifloxacin. They are effective against mainly the gram-negative aerobes and very less effects on against the anaerobes, gram-positive or atypical organisms. Whereas second generation levofloxacillin, prulifloxacillin, they have coverage with against the gram-negative, anaerobes, gram-positive, atypical. And third generation are sparfloxacillin, gemifloxacillin, gatifloxacillin, then your gram-negative aerobes, and it is coverage against anaerobes and gram-positive organisms and your atypical organisms. Fourth generations like your moxifloxacillin, trevofloxacin, then your elatrofloxacin, they have gram-negative coverage and very good coverage against the aerobes, gram-positive organisms and atypical organisms. So this is the spectrum and the different members of the fluoroquinolones. They act by either by inhibiting DNA garage enzyme, especially in gram-negative organisms, and against its target is topoisomerase 4 in the gram-positive organisms. Now, the first generation is long-acting, but second generation, third generation, and fourth generation are much more longer-acting than the first generation. They are effective in urinary infection, gonorrhea, typhoid, respiratory infection, community-acquired pneumonia, mycoplasma, chlamydia, tuberculosis, post-operative infections, hospital-acquired infections, and gynecological infections. So, according to the coverage, we can use these fluoroquinolones in urinary infections, then genital tract infections, genitourinary infections, except moxifloxacin. We will not prescribe moxifloxacin in urinary infections because the concentration is less. They are used, fluoroquinolones are used in both upper and lower respiratory infections like levofloxacin, gemifloxacin, and moxifloxacin. So sometimes you may be asked, which are respiratory fluoroquinolones? So they are levofloxacin, gemifloxacin, and moxifloxacin. Typhoid fever, drug of choice is your ciprofloxacin. Ofloxacin also is used. Bacterial diarrhea like Salmonella, Shigella, E. coli, these groups of drugs are very commonly used. Now, post-operative as well as the nosocomial infections, fluoroquinolones are effective. It is also effective in intra-abdominal, pelvic, and gynecological infections. Bones and soft tissue infections, eye infection, they are used. And this is also used in, especially the levofloxacin, ofloxacin, and the ciprofloxacin. They are used in multi-drug resistance or extensively drug-resistant tuberculosis. Their ofloxacin is used again in the leprosy patients. It is very important to know these fluoroquinolones are not effective against syphilis. So it should not be. They are not effective against treponema. So it is not useful against the syphilis. So today we had discussed the fluoroquinolones. So in short, fluoroquinolones are antimicrobial agents they are synthetic, then they have very good coverage against gram-positive and the gram-negative organisms, anaerobes, atypical organisms. They are effective against tuberculosis also. They are very good in for the treating urinary tract infection, respiratory infection, soft tissue infections. But there are fourth generation. When we go to the upper from first generation to fourth generation, gram-positive coverage and anaerobic coverage are very good. So I'll stop here. If you have any doubt, you can ask questions in the link. Thank you.